27th. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm missing so much in the chat. So many people here. It is amazing to hear how apparently there is incredibly unseasonal, beautiful weather from just about everybody who is at least on the eastern seaboard of North America. In New Brunswick today, it is absolutely gorgeous. I have a wedding rehearsal really soon after this live, and I'm actually going to take my motorcycle, which is unheard of to ride anywhere for half an hour uh, late October. Usually your fingers are going to fall off and everything else is going to go numb. So it seems like it's great. Everybody chiming in the chat. Love people checking in where they're at. Oh, except for Sharon. Sorry about that. Snowy Calgary. maybe maybe we should all stop talking about how beautiful it is where we are. Poor Sharon in snowy Calgary. What is going on out there? You drew the short end of the stick for sure. And of course, Mark is here from California, just saying it's just another avocado day out where you are. Nothing different, right? So I'm trying to catch up here. Love that I see. Well, Sabrina won. She was the first to chime in with a comment at 12. 12 my time. 43 minutes after the hour. Super early. Jane is here as usual. Kirsty, I'm so excited to meet both of you in. I'm going to say it, and you know what? I know a lot of you are excited for Wedding MBA to be over because then I'll stop talking about it. But I can't wait to see so many of you in person. Jane is going to be there because she's a member of Unboring Wedding Academy. Kirsty's going to be there, a member of Unboring Wedding Academy. John, also a member, but in Australia, straight from Bali. And then, of course, I love how he was taking a bit of from some friendly ribbing from Sabrina, saying, "Yeah, you poor thing." So it's 3 a.m. for John. You are such a trooper. Thanks for joining us. Chuck is here from Massachusetts. Brittany, hello. Boston. Mitchell is in Boston, and it is gorgeous on this area. It sounds like beautiful fall weather. Long Island, same thing. Just Sharon, only poor Sharon, out in the middle of Canada, is getting the shaft here today. But thank you for joining live for that question of the week that I do here in incredible groups of officiants on Facebook and in my own community. What happens when the couple has decided not to go with a wedding planner? I was shocked this week when I read a statistic. I think it was on Instagram or something. Only 30% of couples are going with a wedding planner. Now, if I was a wedding planner, I'd be probably a bit unnerved by that statistic. Maybe some of you here in the chat are wedding planners. I know some of you pull double duty. There's officiant celebrants and planners as well who wear kind of two hats. So for officiants and celebrants, of course, I would say 99.9% of couples go with a wedding officiant. So that's still good news for us. But only 30% are choosing a planner. And that does mean that a lot of the extra tasks and jobs and responsibilities automatically fall to the officiant, the celebrant. It's on our shoulders to kind of pick up some of the slack that is left when the couple has decided not to have a planner. And so I don't want to sugarcoat it, and I don't want any officiants to think that, oh, that's no big deal. It'll pretty much be the same thing. Whenever there's no planner, there is a lot more responsibility. And I was just sitting down to brainstorm for this live today, and I came up with 7 things you might add to the list. And so, given that there are 7 things that I want to cover, what will the officiant need to do? I'm up to 7. If I sat and thought longer about it, it could be 10. Maybe you'll jump in the chat. Maybe you've thought of some things. This is based on my personal experience. I have noticed, I would say, in terms of my own kind of anecdotal evidence, if the hard numbers say 30% of couples are choosing a planner, I would say about half of my couples choose a planner. And when I hear that they do not have a wedding planner, I know it's just going to be a bit of extra work for me. So I'm not belly aching or complaining about that. It's just important to put it on our radar as officiants and celebrants who want to do the best for our couple, want them to have a great ceremony. Of course, We are not planning the rest of their day, their reception, their cocktail hour, their itinerary, their photo sessions, right? We don't do any of that. But I always tell the couple, I consider the half hour before ceremony start time, right up until I send you up the aisle married and give you the paperwork, and we'll touch on the span and scope of that. I consider that all under my purview. Now, again, if there is a planner, a lot of time the planner is right there, shoulder to shoulder with me, helping all along the way. And sometimes these are just venue coordinators. I officiate at the Algonquin Resort in St. Andrews by the Sea. That's just 15 minutes from my house. And that place is amazing. The wedding and events coordinator there, manager Kate, she is on it. I don't even know if it's in her job description to be as thorough as she is, but I know when I officiate there, she is going to be on every detail of the couple moving around and being in start time, where they need to be, and all the details of the physical furnishings and everything. So that's an example of, I go there and Kate's handling everything. I go to another, maybe outdoor venue, beautiful spot nearby, no planner, and the couple is DIYing everything. That is a very different officiating experience. So I do want to cover all 7. I'd love to hear in the chat, what would you say, given again the empirical evidence supposedly in this article I read, 30% choose a planner. I would say half of my couples. What would you say is the percentage of couples that have a planner? If you've done one wedding and and there was a planner, it's 100% for you. But I know some of you in the chat here have done hundreds of weddings. This is obviously again anecdotal, but what would you say? I'd love to see numbers, percentage wise. What's the percentage of couples that have a planner? And of course, the opposite is why we're talking today. That means 70% empirically don't have a planner, and it's going to be extra work for us. So pop in the chat. I will just kind of scroll through the chat here. So today we are going to, I'm going to cover the 7 things that I think you should be ready for, in addition to all the other details that are in your purview as an officiant. There are 7 other things I would say that should be on your radar. And I'm just going to go through the hellos and who's here a bit more. Justin, you're here. Today's the day. Oh my gosh, Justin, I know you've been working hard, and I read your ceremony, and I am super pumped. And you're here. You're here live. Justin, does your couple have a planner? I forget. I read your script because you're a client, and I can't wait for you because you crushed it. And you're going to do awesome today. So good for you. Sabine is here. Hello. Guy in Orlando, is it as warm, Guy, for you as it is as it is up here in Florida? Reishi is here from Chicago. Good to see you. It's 80 degrees in North Carolina, right? NC, yeah. Brittany's here from Oklahoma, about to drop to 30 plus degrees. Okay, so there's like the middle of the continent here is not doing great, and we're all basking in the sun in t-shirts here on the east side. Awesome to see. I am starting to check the weather for Vegas. What's it going to be like during the day? Because 1 week from today, I leave for Wedding MBA. And Guy said, looking forward to meeting all of you at Wedding MBA. So glad you're going to be there. That's awesome. All members of Unboring Wedding Academy who are there, we are getting together for dinner on Tuesday night. And it's on me. So I'm super excited to kind of give that appreciation thank you dinner and get all of us in the room because I appreciate you so much. If you're not a member of Unboring Wedding and you're going to be at Wedding MBA and you want a free dinner, come on into the course and boom, that'll punch your ticket. Good to see you here, Denise, New Jersey. Okay, so I'm hoping to see some numbers here. Sabine says 10% of your couples are opting for a planner. Wow. Not much in France. Okay, so it's not a thing in France. Wow, that's interesting. Keith says for non-elopement ceremonies, 25% of my Ottawa ceremonies use planners. Many use the venue coordinators. Okay, and this is where I was saying, for example, a lot of couples forego planners, but the venue coordinator is super on top of things at the Algonquin, for example, and has been at Kingsbury Garden, for example. So some venue coordinators are super on top of it. Other venues, they just say basically, here's the space, knock yourself out, and you never hear from them again. So it's a bit all over the map. Sissy is here. You just did your first wedding. They had no planner, Sissy, but you crushed it. I got to work with you. It was a shortened timeline. You're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy. Your photos are pure gold that you sent me. And man, it is awesome to see you here. You're here live, so you must be itching to do some more, right? I did follow up with you, but you must. Or was it a one and done? It's hard to not do another one after you absolutely ace the first one like this. Mark says almost all yours are high end upscale weddings, 100 to 600 attendees, many at major venues. So does that mean usually a planner, Mark? I'm trying to see if you stuck a number on there. Okay, 95%. Yeah. In Spokane, only 40% of venues have coordinators. About 10% of our couples have planners. Okay, so that's interesting. You're maybe hovering around, what was that, 40, 50%, depending on how it shakes out. Sabrina says, none of mine out of about 9 so far. Wow. So you have been plannerless. So Kirsty says 50. Yeah, that's my experience. John says 75. So we are all at some point going to, except maybe for Mark, who is at a sweet 95%. Planners are incredible. I talk in my course, and I do have a YouTube video about how you got to suss out the relationship with the planner a little bit. Sometimes there's some territorialism. Sometimes a planner, if they haven't met you, because they step into a venue and they see you and they think, okay, officiants are typically helpless. They're hot messes. A lot of the work falls to me. That is how a lot of time they approach the officiant, kind of like insulting your intelligence. They don't mean, it's not that they're malevolent or anything like that. It's just that they have worked with a lot of bad officiants. And I talk about making sure you present your best foot right away. Show them you are in control. You know the details. You are not going to be like many of the officiants they've seen. You just got to give them those signals, and they are typically right there, super happy, delighted to be working with you and that kind of thing. It's funny because I just thought of an 8th thing on my list here. I typically don't have any paper. I just go off the top of my head, but this is a list. I should get to it because, like I said, I have a wedding rehearsal to get to this afternoon at beautiful Dominion Hill, outdoors, hopefully in this weather. So thanks for popping all your stats in the chat there. That's really helpful. Debbie says 100 weddings, no wedding planners. Wow. Sissy, loved working with you too. Man, we were going back and forth with Bonjoros, and you liked my energy. I loved your energy. It was a lot of fun. So here we are. April is here in Boston. Good to see you. I will be in Boston next Friday, getting on a plane to go to Vegas. All right. Here's the first thing, and these are in no particular order, although I did try to, in order to kind of keep a bit of a chronology maybe, talk about the 8, hopefully I remember it now because the 8 things that you need to cover off, details, help your couple with when there is no planner. It sounds like a lot of us maybe have had to do these on the fly. This is my experience of things that have come up and you think, oh, for goodness sake, this is way outside of my pay grade, but I can't help it. When these things happen and the couple is DIYing, you just want them to have the best ceremony ever, right? You've invested your heart, your soul into everything going on. And so you are, ready to help them in any way necessary. And so I just want these things on your radar. You can take notes. I just find that I'm ready to go on these things. This is above and beyond, as I said, the incredible amount of ceremony detail that I wrote about in this book. If you're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, the course, there's a spreadsheet that I teach you to take into a planning session with your couple 4 to 6 weeks before the day and work through the ceremony details with them. But like I said, these things I would say are outside even the purview of ceremony details. But I will say, this is my segue, 4 to 6 weeks before the day, you sit down and you have what I call the wedding workshop with your couple. And I write about that meeting, how to do that meeting, what to say, and exactly how to conduct that meeting in this book. This whole book is that meeting. And essentially it's stage 1 of Unboring Wedding Academy. I got to say, friends, one of minutes into that wedding, that workshop, I say, and if you've used a spreadsheet, you're familiar with this, I say to my couple, give me the cast of characters. So I just want all the people up top. who are participating in the wedding. And so I start with their names, so I pronounce them properly. I start with and then I say, okay, do you have who's taking your pictures? And they'll tell me. And this is where I say, do you have a planner? So this is 4 to 6 weeks before the day. And that's where a lot of time my couples will say, half of my couples at least, we're just doing it ourselves. You're looking at the planner. It's me. Haha. And I say, okay, I just take a deep breath and I say, that's totally fine. That's totally your choice. This is some free advice as an officiant who's done hundreds of weddings, been doing this for 10 years. And I see the contrast of the emotional state of when I get on site on the wedding day and there is a planner, the couple is feeling a certain way. And when there's not a planner, the couple is often feeling another way. You might not have the kind of wedding that Ken or Mark is talking about, 100, 600 people high end. It doesn't matter. You are usually planning, even if it's, 75, 100 people, you're planning a massive party, an event with food and tiny details. And I tell them that this is really hard to pull off and be present in the moment and thinking of your nuptials at the same time. You are getting married, you're making this lifelong commitment, you're getting your pictures taken, you're the focus of everything. When I host a party at my house and there's a lot of people, typically I'm in the kitchen, I'm making drinks, I'm making sure the appetizers, and my wife and I are doing the things, but we're kind of like floating in the back, making sure everybody has everything they need and drinks are replenished and ice is still fresh. And I can't imagine being the center of the show, having to do a ceremony, etc., while making sure all that's happening. So I gently tell them, this is free advice. Again, I'm not going against your choice, and I know there's budget issues, but can I just suggest that you get a day of coordinator? If not a day of coordinator, invest in something like an online program. And I'm going to just say here, for example, Jamie Wolfer's master plan. I we know each other, Jamie and I. She talks about my stuff in her videos. I talk about her stuff. I just think she has the kind of thing, as somebody who sells online courses myself, she has the kind of thing where, if you just say to your couple, it's a subscription model, you pay by the month, based on how far your wedding is away. And she, has itineraries and timelines. I'm particularly interested as an officiant in the stuff near the bottom of her list because she'll start months away in her program. But the day of details, the last minute details, things like that, things that we're going to cover here today that a lot of couples cannot possibly understand. That is the kind of stuff that's covered in a course like Jamie Wolfer's master plan. And so just kind of nudge them. If they haven't gotten anyone local, obviously I suggest New Brunswick day of coordinators, day of planners, but there's a huge, I would say there's not enough weddings in our area, I would argue. They're usually booked up solid. So that, I guess, is a call to move to New Brunswick. Anybody listening? But barring that, your couples can also grab a day of course like Jamie Wolfer's master plan. And so I'm just putting that out there as a friend and somebody whose offer and service I really, really like, and somebody who I know helps people who are kind of clueless. Of course, many couples, this is their very first time doing it. So I just suggest that to them in the planning session 4 to 6 weeks before the day. They can take it or they can leave it. Now, I also tell them, if you're going to forego that, at the very least, and this fits into everybody's budget. Okay, so listen to this. I say, if you're not going to get a coordinator or a program that kind of teaches you and has those last minute detail lists or things like that, consider and please think of a bossy type A friend or family member, a bridesmaid or an aunt, or sometimes it's one of the mothers who can keep things moving and on schedule the day of. I find it's really hard for a marrier to be cracking the whip when they're getting their makeup done and when they have to move to the next photo session, when they have to move to this site, when it's time to go. It's really hard for the marrier to be focused on that because maybe they're not bossy and maybe they don't want to offend and maybe they're thinking, maybe they just read their vows from their significant other who's at the venue, but they do the thing where they read separately and they're crying. I mean, there's just so many things going on. And this is how I talk to my couple in the wedding workshop. Think of a kind of bossy type A, detail oriented. And I do think those two things are important, detail oriented and very assertive, to say, get your butts in the car now. We have to get to the venue, for example. That's the kind of stuff a planner does. And it's super important, I think, for a family member or a friend to be on site, kind of with the marrier at their side on the wedding day, doing that kind of thing. Everything will go better. Okay. Now let's hit to the 7 things really quick. No, 8 if I we've got about 10 minutes left here in this. So the first thing is, in terms of details, the very first thing is, you might be responsible for the physical setup. And I don't mean setting up furniture. I mean, and this is where a rehearsal, when there's no planner, a rehearsal is pure gold, because you're going to catch all this stuff at the rehearsal. Go out to the venue. Again, if it's at like Ticklebelly Hill, a big barn venue nearby, and they don't have a decorator and they don't have a planner, typically when I get to the rehearsal, they're on ladders and there's huge piles of tablecloths and flowers, and they're all, setting up and things like that. And that's where I say, okay, where's the ceremony space? Now, in some places, it's at a designated place. The benches are set up. It's kind of the typical outside thing. But what if it's inside? It's cold. It's rainy. You're going to have to move some tables. They're setting up the chairs. If there's a planner, they know. They're like, okay, this is a ceremony. We're going to set this up. I have arrived on site at the rehearsal many a time, and the couple are trying to figure out where, and their family and friends, and everybody's got an opinion. They are trying to figure out the logistics of the physical space, the tables, the chairs, the width, where the standing. So that might fall into your lap. And again, imagine if you didn't have a rehearsal and you assume, oh, the couple knows this. Well, what if they don't? You're going to have enough detail in your script when you send it to them. For example, I always put if you need 3 or 4 people to come down the aisle has to be wide enough for that, or that kind of thing. But a lot of the time, unless you get in the space and walk it through in terms of the distance, I went to a wedding last week where the setup was atrocious in the sense of, when I took my place, the couple would have been standing past the front row. It was that close. I had to say, excuse me, to the setup and the decorators walking around. Again, no planner. I said, this is not going to work. Look, see, when I stand here and there's a mic stand here and I'm holding my binder, the couple are actually past the front row. That doesn't make any sense. We need to move this table. We need to move those chairs back. I caught that, and it was one of those things where I was like, if I had showed up at the wedding, even 45 minutes early without a rehearsal, a planner wouldn't have caught that. And I'm not sure they would have been able to move 100 chairs and the head table, which was behind me. I just took out my printer, but which was behind me at the time. So be aware of, you might have to show up and be mindful of physical setup. Has that happened to anyone here at all? Can I get a heck yeah, as I say at the beginning of every ceremony? The second thing is everyone arriving. So I did hint at that. You want, whether it's a planner or, like I said, that type A family member who will crack the whip and say, let's go, photo session is over, I'm sorry, we need to get going. You want somebody who doesn't want the ceremony to be late and who wants to keep things on time. This is the kind of thing where Jamie Wolfer's course has an itinerary where you put in the times, and she will tell you about how long things take in that schedule. And that's super important, because once again, I'm going to say it, when there's no planner, a lot of the time everything's running late because people are arriving late. They didn't know when they're supposed to get here. The parties are trickling in. Sometimes the party is together, sometimes they're not. The photos went super long. The hair and makeup took way longer. A planner is going to know it's going to take an insane amount of time, like 3 hours for hair and makeup. And the couple might think, oh, it'll take like an hour. So that's the kind of thing where you want to remind everyone. And in the rehearsal, I get everybody in the round and I say, okay, so we're going for a 4:00 start tomorrow. Yes, 4:00. Did everybody agree? I assume everybody knows how and when they are arriving in plenty of time to start on time. I'm looking around, there's like, yeah. Now, whether or not that happens, we will see. A planner, again, will know, bam, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be like clockwork. If there's no planner, anything can happen. Now, I will say we're not going to be, super hard ass about this. Now, do I have to put an E on this video because I said that? We're not going to. I'm using explicit language here. We're going to roll with it. We're going to be friendly, but I'm just. It's best to put these things on the couple's radar of things that might happen or might go wrong or might be unexpected, and at least say, how and when are we getting here? Let's try to stick to the schedule. And it's good for you, the officiant, to give them that nudge and kind of be a little bit extra in terms of we do want to start on time. The guests are going to be arriving. They're going to be sitting in those seats in the sun or in the cold or whatever it is. And we don't want to keep them waiting longer than they have to. 10, 15 minutes at the most, I would say, is okay. Longer than that is pretty unacceptable. The third thing is paperwork. Now, again, if you're doing a legal ceremony, it's different everywhere. The paperwork, of course, is the officiant's purview, and I would say that falls in the grounds of this book and the meeting, and that's a typical officiant thing. What I mean here is after the ceremony. Typically, I have to leave a portion of the paperwork with the couple. And if there is a planner, man, I just walk straight up to the planner, give them the part that we signed in the ceremony, and say, there you go, chain of custody. I'm giving this to you. You will make sure it gets to them. Lock it down. Great. I've given it to you. That's on the record. Okay. You have it, etc. Planners are like, yeah, absolutely. When there's no planner, I ask the couple in the wedding workshop, who should I give this piece of paper to? And it should be someone who's very responsible, typically a parent or that kind of thing. But that is something you will expressly have to ask and make sure. You don't want to just give this to a best man who says, like, oh, I never got it, or it was in his jacket pocket and then he was dancing and he flung his jacket into the pond or something like that. You want to make sure that that piece of paper falls into the right responsible hands. And when that's not a planner, that is not a given. You have to really work that out, hash that out with the couple because it's such an important piece of paper. The next thing I would say is seating for family. I cannot tell you how often this has happened where we are all lined up at the back, ready to start, and there is no planner, and maybe I've been busy too with the DJ or last minute stuff, and I get to the back and I'm looking at all the people who need to be escorted. Sometimes part of the honorary formal seating at the end is there's family members, grandmas, grandpas, special people related to the couple that they want to bring in and seat, maybe pre-processional or during the processional. And then I go and look and I ask, so where are they sitting? And they say, oh, we didn't really plan that. Now you might say, well, why wasn't that covered in the rehearsal? Sometimes in the rehearsal, those people aren't there because they're just think, well, we're just walking them in and seating them. We don't really need to go over this. So catch that in the rehearsal if you can and say, where are the seats for the family that are being escorted in? And it has happened very often where people are sitting in the seats of the people that were supposedly going to be ushered up there ceremonially before the processional or during the processional and would have gotten there and then not had a seat. There would have been this awkward, like, oh, can you push down? Or, oh my God, what is that? So you have to think about that. This is what a planner would work out with the couple. But when there's no planner, they are going to have to think about if they want to escort Aunt Maisie in, well, where's Aunt Maisie's seat? Is it in the front row? Is it in the second row? Maybe you think, oh, it's front row, but then all the flower kids walk in and they occupy the 4 seats where, oh, Aunt Maisie was going to sit. There's a lot of assumption and maybe mix up in terms of the available seats and things like that. So you have to think about that as well. Ideally, that doesn't happen when you're lined up at the back about to start, which has happened to me too many times. And now I just put it on my radar and say, okay, my goodness, we have to iron this out at the rehearsal, which again, I'll just keep saying, it is super crucial to do a rehearsal when there's no planner. I'm at the point now where I have a rehearsal, of course, if you know me and you've listened to my stuff, I have a rehearsal for every single wedding. It's built into the price. It's opt out, not opt in, which means the couple have to say, no, we don't want a rehearsal, to which I will still apply pressure and say, let's have one. I include it and I want to have one. But I'm at the point now where planners don't even come to the rehearsal anymore typically, because they just know I've totally got it. I'm in such command of the details. And of course, this is stage 5 of Unboring Wedding Academy, where I just talk about how to take ultimate command of that rehearsal and look for every single detail that could possibly go wrong and make sure no stone is left unturned. The next thing is you're at the back. You're about to go up. Like I say, you got to make sure that the people who are getting escorted in are sitting if they're family members. Another thing is that I've noticed is a lot of people, if there's too many chairs for guests, huge gaps, second and third row are just empty, and people start sitting in the fourth row and back. You know, the saying goes, you have to arrive early at a wedding to get a back seat, because everybody is like, okay, they get the first guests are in the back row. Okay, so a lot of time, great planners will catch that and say that looks really bad in photographs, and it's bad for the energy. It's like a moat between what's going on at the front and then this huge buffer zone, no man's land, and then the guests kind of start and they're way back there. So if there's no planner, if there is a planner, I'll talk to the planner about that and we'll kind of jockey about who's going to do something about it. If there's no planner, I gently go into the aisle and say, hey, folks, I wonder if you can do us a favor. See these empty seats? Can some brave souls move up to the best seats in the house here? Second row, third row, we do not need these seats empty. If you think you're not special enough to sit in these seats, guess what? I'm saying you are. Please come up. And typically you'll have people come up and do that. So, I don't go to the front because I don't want to give a false start. I only go to the front when we're about to begin and I do those opening remarks. So I'm typically in the aisle looking at them right where the seats are. I'd love if some brave souls come up and grab the best seats of the house. Look for that. Again, a great planner will catch that. No planner, you get up there and then you instantly feel that. I noticed that before I started catching this years ago. Oh my gosh, it feels awful when that front row is full of family because that was reserved. And then there's 2 or 3 empty rows and you're talking to guests back there. I also talk to couples about putting the exact number of chairs per guests if possible. But like I said, in some venues, it's benches outside or something, and that's the permanent setup, and they don't have a choice for that. And so you have that huge gap, which just close it. Ask people to come out of the back rows and sit together closer to the front. Which leads to the next thing, which is, where are we at now? This is where I did want to number. I'm going to say it now so I don't forget it. We had a venue a couple of weeks ago where there were doors, and we're outside we're on the other side of the doors. The guests in the ceremony space are inside a large ballroom, and when you're on the other side of those doors and you're doing a processional, you have to think who's opening and closing those doors. If there's no planner and if the venue staff are kind of hands off, you're not going to have bridesmaids opening their own doors and trying to scoot through and stuff like that. So typically you do need a body there opening the doors, maybe closing them again after the whole party is up and the marrier is about to enter. You want those doors to close. As the officiant, I'll say, please stand for the marrier, the bride or groom, as you're able. Then everybody stands, and then the doors will open and the marrier will enter as kind of the peak climax of the processional. Well, who's going to open and close those doors? That is just such an overlooked thing. And so I do try to ask that. If they say there's no planner and we are in the processional part of the wedding workshop, I do say, who's going to be on the doors opening? Give me, help me brainstorm what's going on in the processional opening and closing doors. What's going to happen there? So remember, get somebody on those doors. Don't assume the planner is going to do it, because there is no planner. Don't assume the venue people are going to do it. They might not do it. Some venues they do. I was at a golf club last week and they were happily on the doors. That was part of the job, as part of that they thought. But we don't want to ever assume, because a lot of time the staff will say that's not our job to open and close the door. You never know what you're going to get when there's no plan. It's one of those little details. And I think we are rounding third base here and heading home for the last one, which is, we talked about seating, family, the start. We did not talk about corralling people at start time. I've lost the plot. Were we at 6? This is 7. Corralling people at start time. That is going to be on you. I find that, when there's a planner, of course, the planner is trying to keep an itinerary. If there's a bride with their party and a bridal suite, they say, let's go, let's move to the back. They are handling everything. They are, okay, guys, let's go. And I will just say, okay, groomsmen, let's go to the back. Let's all start lining up beyond the doors, for example. But if there's no planner, I have seen like no one's going to do anything unless you do it something. I've been at some weddings where I swear we would still be milling about right now, 3 months later, if I hadn't started it. There's just this sense of like, who is going to take control of lining everybody up at the back and getting this thing started? Oh my goodness. I guess it's me. So be prepared, officiant and celebrant, when there's no planner. You are going to have to do the corralling at the back. The couple might be more than happy to keep milling about, drinking some scotch, hanging out with their friends in the bridal suite or the parties, the marrier suite, and not start. And so many times I've had to say, "Are you ready?" Yes. Okay, let's go. How about you? Are you ready? Good. Okay, come on. Let's line up. Are you ready? Good. So it is on you. I find 99% of the time the couple will not initiate the start. That it's on you to get started. Sometimes you have couples that are like, okay, let's go. They're chomping at the bit, which is awesome. I love that. But that is often the planner's job. No planner, it's your job. Finally, and this is a bit less tangible, but I am going to say, because this is what planners do so well, what are you going to need to do? We're answering this question. What will the officiant need to do? Emotional management. Again, when you show up on site and there's no planner, you have no idea what kind of day the couple has had. I have showed up and brides are in tears because somebody forgot their kid's car seat in the van back at the venue. The rings weren't brought from home. And so again, all that stuff gets sent to the couple and they're, who's going to go back to your place and get the thing? And maybe the baby's been crying, or the bride's trying to do like nurse the baby while you have no idea what you're walking into. And when there's a planner, typically the planners are amazing at being the couple's number one advocate, guide, helper in all things. And that's why I say to them in that wedding workshop, get a friend or relative, a bossy friend or relative to take care of this stuff, to start delegating if something's forgotten, to spring into action and be your advocate, your support. If that's not there, you could very well get on site and the couple could be a mess. And you might have to go into minister mode, I would say. I've had to stand with a bride at the back of the line before we go in and just say, okay, let's just pause. Let's take a deep breath. Just remember, you're going to have a great time up there. Just let the day go. You might need to do some breathing exercises with them, that kind of thing. And again, you might be thinking in your head, this is way beyond my pay grade. I didn't sign up for this. Some of you take this approach and say, I am their minister, non-religious minister. And so you really thrive in that. There's all kinds of different officiants and celebrants approaching this. But a lot of the time, like I say, you're going to show up and you're not going to be sure what you're going into. So as soon as I get on site, I do a couple details, but then I go check in on both marriers and say, how are you doing? Sometimes it's the groom who's coming undone and the bride is just fine. Or, if there's two brides, one bride's doing great, the other bride's falling apart, et cetera, et cetera. And so you might want to go in there and just coach them, counsel them into breathing, to remember what's important, to let it all go. And just say, hey, the only thing that really matters here today is what you're here to do, and that is to get married. All your guests are having a great time. Just let all that stress go away. Whatever you need to do in the moment, just be prepared. The first few times it caught me off guard. Now, like I say, I roll up to a wedding and I am fully ready for whatever is going to happen. That is the approach that you want to take. Don't take anything for granted or assume everything's going to be just fine, especially when there's not a planner. The planner will often take on all that stuff and mitigate all those feelings and that stress. But when there's no planner, guess who it is? That's right, it's you. So that is the list of 8 things. I'll round up again. The physical setup might fall to you. Everyone arriving, the paperwork, seating for the family, moving people up, who's on the doors, corralling everybody to start, and then kind of managing emotions when it's getting near start time and you get on the scene. Any thoughts about that in the chat? I was going on and on there, and I don't see too much. Maybe everyone's just stupefied or taking notes or driving or on the golf course on a day like today. Who knows? I'm just in your ear. Any thoughts, any questions before we pop off here? It is, I've gone over. No one's surprised by that. I'm just got to make sure I don't go over at Wedding MBA when I'm when I'm on stage in a week and a few days. But here I have a bit of flexibility, but I do need to leave in a little bit. Deborah's agreeing. That's awesome. Sorry, I must leave to meet with a couple free chemistry check. Awesome. Sabrina, good for you. That means this is the chemistry check is what we call it when we're members, when a couple is considering booking us. And I say, meet with your couple, give them the pitch of who you are so they know what they're getting into. Get a feel for them too. Make sure you're a good fit, because I think that chemistry with a couple, between the couple and the officiant, is super key on the wedding day. So thanks for joining, Sabrina, and thanks for watching. Deborah, stay blessed. You too. Let's see. Keith said, I always move the guests in the cheap economy seats in the back to business class. That's awesome. I love how you put that. Seating needs to be sorted in advance, especially when family is complicated. Totally agree. I give the couple that have no money the $1,000 ceremony for donations, Debbie says. Seeing lots of heck yeah. So that's awesome. Okay, so that is it. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, John's saying good night. John's out. It's like 3:40 a.m. where you are. Have a good night/morning, John. Sleep tight. See you at the next one. I, too, am going to sign off if there's no questions here. Wedding officiants are the unsung heroes of every wedding. Absolutely. And I would add to that, wedding planners, thank you for all you do. When you don't condescend to us, which typically gets sorted out pretty quickly because you bring all the baggage of all the bad officiants that you've worked with. But when you work with us, my goodness, you are our best advocates, our best ally. You help the day go smoothly. I love working with a great planner. I feel so much better, and I thank them profusely. Thank you so much for advocating for my couple, supporting me, doing everything you did on the day to just make it a great experience for the couple. We want them, the couple, to have the best experience on this big day. Jennifer, you're welcome. Good to see you here. Kirsty, can't wait to see you. It's just a few days now. We can count the sleeps. And yeah, Esther, I love planners too. Mitchell, you're welcome. This is just, lots of experience, everything. This list of 8 things typically was from moments of pain where I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to, this too now? This too? So when you know it's coming, you're going to roll with whatever happens. Officiants do that better than anyone. Because we're in such a public space and everything changed. We got to mitigate the feelings and just keep everybody's spirits up. So we're so good at that already. But hey, when this stuff's on your radar, you don't need to say, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever seen this. What do I do? Sissy, all you do not go. Okay, thanks for all you all you do and give. You too. See you in Las Vegas, Ralph and Karen. Jane says, last week the baby threw up on the dress. Just had a call that uninvited dad might crash rehearsal. Wow. Okay. So Jane, as we said, you're going to roll with it. And yes, Sandra says, enjoy Vegas. Can't wait to hear about it. I'll try not to go on about it too much, but hey, I am planning on being here next week. So don't wish me a good time in Vegas yet. It is a week and change away. And so I am going to be here, I believe, next week. I'm gonna go for it. I'll answer a question of the week and then probably hit the road to Boston right after that, because I do love being on here with all of you. Thank you so much for making the time in the middle of the day. If you want to join this incredible group of members in the chat, unboringweddingacademy.com. Like I said, stage 1 is all about the wedding workshop that I covered today. Stage 5 is all about the rehearsal, of course. And stages 2, 3, and 4 are about writing the script, surveying your couple, and writing their love story, which now, of course, the Love Story Caster helps with. I just added that to the course, where you put your couple's answers to the survey in a web page, click a button, and the full story is delivered to your inbox. And I got to say, in this busy season that I'm experiencing of multiple weddings, preparing for Vegas, all my marketing materials and my presentation on stage, I certainly am glad for the Love Story Caster. It used to take me 3 hours to write a story, and now because I've pre-programmed it, 5 minutes. It's absolutely incredible, and I know it's helped so many of you. All right, so is the Vegas event a yearly event? Yes, Mitchell, it's every year around the same time. So this is my third year speaking, second year in a row. There was a bit of a COVID interruption, but I wouldn't miss it. It's so amazing. And I know some of you are hearing about it for the first time. Definitely try to make it if you can. Sissy, your enthusiasm is contagious. Right back at you. Love the love story. Sissy, your story was so good. And that is one of the things that I love about my job is when you become a member, you can send me your story and your script, and I get to read these amazing stories and experience what you're about to deliver almost as a guest. And I absolutely love that. Yeah, we iron some things out and, check off some details. Maybe I can punch it up a little bit, but that is another huge part of what I love about what I do. All right. Yeah, Mitchell, plan for next year. See you then. I will be here next Friday because Wedding MBA is not this coming week. It's next week. So I'll be here. Have a good one, everybody. Have a great wedding weekend. If you have a wedding, marry on. Either way, enjoy this great weather on the eastern seaboard. Sorry about those of you in the middle of the continent. I'm sure your turn is coming. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again, everybody. Marry on.